Hi, let's get you up to speed with Severance Season 2, Episode 5. We begin with a steel cart getting pushed down a variety of hallways and a gentleman whistling the tune of the wreck of the Edmunds Fitzgerald. He meets up with the ODR crew, Felicia and a partner, and the two of them give him what looks like dental hygienist tools, and he continues on his way. While still whistling, he continues to make his way down the mysterious dark hallway to the exports elevator. Mark is seen taking a variety of medications, including what looks like a very disgusting solution. Ragavi shows up and looks like she is living with Mark so they can continue to complete his reintegration process. Mark complains that his Audi does not seem to remember anything of his innie's experiences, and Ragavi retorts that maybe you don't, but perhaps your innie does. Audi Helly meets with Donovan and Natalie and explains she is not going back to MDR, as she herself tried to kill herself as well as an outside member attempted to kill her. Mr. Donovan insists that she needs to go back as her innie because they can't take any more chances with her Audi, and Mark is close to completing the Cold Harbor project. Mark needs Helly there to complete this. He also insists that her father agrees with this procedure. Helly again suggests that she fakes her presence, but they just won't risk it. Innie Helly enters and is quite shocked, as the last memory she may have is of Irving attempting to drown her. The three MDR members are taken to Mr. Milchek's office where they question about Irving's whereabouts and the general insanity that's going on. Mr. Milchek explains that Irving has been terminated and will not be returning. He also explains that the need for Audi Helly to be in with the MDR crew was to see what is going on with the Severance floor, hence the subterfuge. Innie Helly is not happy, and she feels violated that somebody else took over her body. The three are brought to their new workstation, which consists of a 3-desk setup. Dylan is not happy. Before they begin work, Dylan says they want a funeral for Irving. As to them, he is in fact dead. Mark is a little standoffish, but okay with it as long as it doesn't, quote, take up the whole day. Innie Helly confronts Mark and is anguished at his treatment towards her and the attitude about Irving. Ms. Wong and Mr. Milchek arrange a funeral, and Ms. Wong questions his actions actually allowing them to have a funeral, stating it makes them feel like people. Mr. Milchek shuts her down, but then she reminds him in a quite threatening manner that his performance review is coming up today, is it not? The MDR have a funeral for Irving in the break room, complete with a cartoonish version of him on screen, and a whopping 9 seconds to remember Irving, and a eulogy from Dylan. And what would Severance be without an extremely awkward centerpiece? This awkward centerpiece is a watermelon sculpture of Irving's head that the MDR crew are to consume as part of the refreshments. Ms. Wong is supposed to play her theremin, but Mr. Milchek cuts her off, much to her disappointment. During the funeral and the consumption of the awkward Irving head, Mark excuses himself, looking rather bored and annoyed with the proceedings. But Helly questions his attitude. Dylan speaks up and asks if Mark has let Helly know that Miss Casey was his Audi's wife in an obvious defiant action. Mark storms off and Helly confronts him in the hallway, asking him what are they going to do. Mark retorts, saying that they're not going to do anything, that the Severance floor is being watched, every action they make is being judged, everything they do, it doesn't matter, because Audi Helly has let them know everything they're doing. Helly, frustrated, tries to tell Mark that I'm not her, but Mark is still aggravated and disillusioned with the entire ordeal of her. Helly states not everything in here is a lie, and stop being a fucking asshole. Natalie greets Mr. Milchek as he is about to have his first performance review. Off the cuff, he questions Natalie about, and again, as a white guy, I'm not comfortable saying these things, about the race swap paintings of the depicted Kier legacy that he received. And since they are, in his words, similar in some ways and may have faced similar challenges, how did she feel when she received the paintings? She stonewalls him and takes him to his performance review. Back at the funeral, Dylan stares at Irving's watermelon's head and laments. But then he sees a poster that invokes a memory of him and Irving's last interaction during the outdoor procedure, when Irving told him to hang in there. Dylan inspects the poster and finds Irving's hand-drawn picture of the exports elevator. He flips it over and finds very detailed and elaborate directions to the elevator. He puts it back where he found it. Mr. Drummond gives Mr. Milchek his performance review, stating that this could take several hours and lunch will be served if necessary. He starts with a positive, stating that he has received the paintings with grace, his attendance and his urinary analysis are both in excellent range. He then says there has been 3 contentions reported and confirmed. 1. He uses big words. 2. He incorrectly places the paper clips on some papers. 3. The big one. He brought in a new team for Mark that didn't work out. He instituted kindness reforms. And during the outing, it resulted in the termination of one employee, Irving, and through violent actions revealed the true identity of another at great risk to the Egan name. Drummond states that Mark's completion of the Cold Harbor project could take place under Milczek's stewardship, saying that the completion of this project could be remembered as one of the greatest moments of the history of this planet. That's big. And maybe this accolade has clouded Mr. Milczek's judgment. He wants Mr. Milczek to go back to basics and remember the severed worker's true purpose. Mr. Milczek says he will tighten the leash. During work, Mark seems to have a little flash of reintegration and decides to leave work a little early. 6 whole minutes. Mr. Milczek confronts him in the elevator, asking him if he got everything he needed from the funeral. Mark fires back, "Did Miss Wong take notes? You know, for that bullshit newspaper you showed us?" Mr. Milczek hopes they could put all of that behind them and continue their work together. Mark is unimpressed and defiant. Milczek intimidatingly asks Mark if he and Helly caught up, and did he let her know about the relations he and her innie had during the Ortbo. Devin and Rickon discuss his new book for innies. Devin is obviously unimpressed, stating it's just going to be more Lumen lies. Rickon is not impressed at her statement, just wanting someone to be proud of him. But it looks like he's going to have to look somewhere else. We go check out Audi Irving, who is seen taking all of his paintings of the export elevator off the wall, then going to a phone booth. He makes a phone call telling somebody on the other end of the line, "They fired me, and I think they know what my innie was up to." Suspicious a little bit. He then notices a familiar car and somebody watching him. He aggressively approaches the car and sees that it's Bert who's been watching him. Irving questions him, and Bert says, "I was curious as who you are as you showed up on my doorstep screaming my name." He questions Irving, "What were you doing at my house?" And Irving replies, "I don't know." Bert tells him, "It wasn't you, was it? You're severed. It was your innie." Irving listens as Bert says that he got fired, and when he asks Lumen why, they said he was involved in an unsanctioned erotic relationship. But he doesn't know who it was, but he's placed together that it was him and Irving. Irving asks if he thinks him and Bert were an item, and Bert's husband Field seems to think so. Irving apologizes. Bert then invites Irving over to his place tomorrow so they can discuss it. Ragabi is seen going through Mark's things, attempting to find an anchor point to continue their reintegration process, something of Miss Casey's. As Mark is going upstairs, he hears Miss Casey's voice, and then reintegration flickers and flashes as he approaches his hallway. More flickering and flashing happens as he sees Miss Casey describing his outie to his innie from his previous mental health sessions. Now you're up to speed. We'll see you next week.